Title: Everyone told the Mafia boss to burn his father's ledger. The bookshop girl read one green page and stopped him. Nico Verone had already struck the match when the bookshop girl put her hand on his father's ledger. "Don't burn that page," she said. The match flame trembled between his fingers. Everyone in the old bookshop stopped moving, except the rain against the front windows and the dust turning slowly in the yellow light. Nico Verone did not look like a man who accepted interruption. He was 42, clean-shaven, black-haired, and dressed in a long black overcoat over a charcoal three-piece suit. A heavy signet ring pressed against the matchbook in his left hand. 2 bodyguards stood near the door. His lawyer waited beside a crate of old papers. His fiancée, Celeste Arden, watched from the travel section with a white-gloved hand over her smile. Mafia did not need to raise its voice in small rooms. It made small rooms remember they had walls. Mara Quinn kept her palm on the green ledger page. She was 33, wearing a faded navy cardigan over a black work dress, with a pencil stuck through her dark braid and paper dust on the side of her cheek. Her hands were small, steady, and stained faintly brown from leather dye and old glue. She had spent 11 years repairing cracked spines, flattening water-swollen pages, and reading what ink tried to hide after richer people decided books were dead. Nico's lawyer gave a thin laugh. "Miss Quinn shelves books," he said. "She does not read family history." Celeste's smile brightened. "How charming. A clerk defending dust." Mara reached for the brass book weight beside the register and set it on the green page with a clean, deliberate thud. The match flame died in Nico's fingers. Not because of the weight. Because Mara had placed it over a margin mark he had not seen since he was 17. 3 dots. 1 line. His father's private signal for danger. Nico stared at the mark. Mara looked up at him. "If you burn this page," she said, "you burn the only proof your father was innocent." The lawyer stopped laughing. That was how Mara knew she had read the room correctly. Nico closed his fingers around the dead match. "Say that again." Mara felt every eye in the bookshop move toward her. The front windows were filmed with rain. The shelves around them bowed under old histories, cracked romances, unpaid invoices tucked inside cookbooks, and the small private griefs people forgot between pages. Verone Books had been closed to customers for 3 days. The sign outside still said antiquarian, rare, and used, but the inside smelled like execution: cardboard boxes, legal folders, wet wool, and the bitter sulfur of a match that had almost made ashes out of a dead man's truth. "Your father was not selling names," Mara said. Nico did not blink. Then what was he doing? She looked down at the green page. The paper was not green because of age. It had been dyed deliberately, a thin wash under the ink, the kind smugglers and printers used when they wanted one page to be found only by someone looking at paper instead of numbers. Mara traced the first column without touching the ink. He was protecting them. The lawyer moved. Nico lifted one hand. His bodyguards caught the signal before the lawyer took a second step. "Stay where you are, Mr. Hale," Nico said. August Hale froze with one polished shoe half turned toward the door. Celeste lowered her hand from her smile. Mara kept reading. "These are not payments. They are relocation markers. Initials, not accounts. Dates, not due dates. Book titles instead of addresses." She pointed to one line. "Rosemary and Rue. 3rd edition. Water damage on page 42. Meaning?" Nico asked. "A woman hidden under a false inventory label." "A woman." "Several." The room changed. It did not soften. Powerful rooms rarely softened when women appeared inside their records. They sharpened, because women in records meant witnesses, debts, shame, children, promises, and the kind of mercy violent men preferred to call weakness. Nico looked at the ledger as though it had insulted him in his father's voice. "My father used this book to betray my family." "No," Mara said. "Someone taught you to read it wrong." One bodyguard looked at the other. Celeste's voice became silk over ice. "Luca, this is absurd." Mara looked up sharply. "His name is Nico." The mistake was small. Too small for most people. But Mara lived among small things. A wrong year in a copyright page. A paste down replaced with paper from the wrong mill. A fake signature pressed with modern ballpoint pressure. A fiancé who called a man by his dead brother's name when frightened. Nico's head turned slowly toward Celeste. Her face remained beautiful. Her eyes did not. "I misspoke," she said. Mara slid the green page a fraction closer to herself. Hale noticed. Nico noticed Hale noticing. "Why are you here, Miss Quinn?" Nico asked. The question held no warmth. Mara preferred that. Warmth could be used to make women careless. Because Mr. Ives left instructions that no Verone ledger could be moved, sold, burned, or destroyed unless the shop restorer signed the release. "Mr. Ives is dead." "Yes." "Convenient." "Not for him." One bodyguard made a sound that might have been a cough. Nico's eyes stayed on Mara. There was danger in them, but not stupidity. That gave her courage she did not want. You sign no release, he said. No. Why? Because this ledger is not trash. It has ruined my name for 20 years. Then it deserves a better trial than a match. Silence. Nico looked down at the burned match in his fingers. Then he placed it on the counter beside the brass book. Wait. Read the first name. Hale spoke quickly. Mr. Verone, I strongly advise against allowing a clerk to interpret sensitive family material. Of course you do. This woman has no clearance. This woman saw more in 30 seconds than you explained in 20 years. Hale flushed. Mara did not smile. Smiling would have made the room punish her faster. She bent over the ledger. The first line read, M. Bell. Rosemary and Rue. 3rd. 42, Green Door. Mara knew the title. An old folklore text. Mr. Ives had made her restore 3 copies years ago, and one had contained a hollow cut behind page 42 where someone had hidden birth papers under a false name. Emma Bell, she said. A woman. Probably relocated through a book record. Rosemary and Rue, 3rd edition, page 42. Green Door means safe address confirmed. Nico's face altered by 1 degree. Mara Bell. Mara's finger stopped. You know her? My father's driver was accused of killing a woman named Mara Bell the week before he died. Was she killed? That was the report. Mara turned the page carefully. There, in the margin, under the 3 dots and 1 line, was another note in faded brown ink. Not dead. Do not trust Hale. No one breathed. August Hale reached for the ledger. Mara slammed the brass book weight down over the page. The sound cracked through the shop. Nico's bodyguard seized Hale before his fingers touched paper. Now, Mara said, her voice steadier than her pulse, I think we can agree this ledger is not leaving my table. Nico Verone looked at the lawyer, then at the ledger, then at the woman with paper dust on her cheek and her hand still guarding his father's green page. For the first time since he entered the bookshop, his voice lost its certainty. Miss Quinn, he said, what else did my father hide? Chapter 1. Verone Books had been dying politely for 20 years. That was how old bookshops died when rich families owned the buildings and guilty men owned the paperwork. They were not attacked. They were not closed overnight. They were starved behind velvet ropes of legal language until the roof leaked, the rent rose, the repair orders vanished, and customers learned to walk past the windows without looking in. Mara had started working there at 22 because she needed rent, quiet, and a place where no one expected her to smile at fluorescent lighting. She stayed because books told the truth more honestly than people. The shop was 3 floors and a basement, wedged between a shuttered watchmaker and a cafe that changed owners every 18 months. Its front room held ordinary used books and tourist maps. The upper gallery held rare volumes behind glass. The basement restoration room held presses, brushes, humidification trays, linen thread, wheat paste, and every secret the dead had been patient enough to leave inside covers. Old Mr. Ives had taught Mara how to listen to paper. People think words are the book, he told her on her 2nd week, placing a cracked atlas under her hands. They are not. Words are what the book says when it knows it is being watched. Paper tells you what happened when no one thought it mattered. Mara believed him. Paper remembered water. Smoke. Heat. Pressure. Grease from nervous thumbs. Cheap glue added after the fact. Ink laid down by hands that trembled and hands that lied. It remembered, especially, fear. The Verone ledger had been afraid. She felt it the first time Mr. Ives let her open it. It was a heavy volume bound in cracked oxblood leather, with no title on the spine and a brass clasp that had been replaced twice. Most pages were ordinary cream ledger sheets filled with columns, dates, initials, amounts, titles, addresses disguised as inventory. But every 20 or 30 pages, a green sheet appeared. Thin. Dyed. Hand-trimmed. The ink on those pages was different, less formal, written in a hand that pressed harder at the left margin. Mr. Ives never explained it fully. If a Verone comes to burn this, he said, stop him. Me? You have good hands. At the time, Mara had thought he meant her repair work. Now she understood he had meant something colder. Good hands were hands that did not let go when powerful men tried to take history by force. Mr. Ives died in March, 6 days after telling her where the release form was hidden and 3 days after saying the name Nico Verone in his sleep. By June, August Hale arrived with probate papers. By Thursday, Celeste Arden arrived with perfume and contempt. By Friday, Nico Verone came to burn the ledger. And now, with the green page exposed and Hale held by 2 bodyguards, the bookshop no longer felt like a dying shop. It felt like a witness stand. Let him go, Nico said. The bodyguards did not move. Hale's eyes flicked to him in disbelief. Nico's voice hardened. Let him stand, not leave. They released the lawyer but remained close enough to make the distinction academic. Hale adjusted his cuffs. You are making a mistake. I made one 20 years ago, Nico said. Today I am reviewing it. Celeste stepped toward him. Nico, listen to yourself. You are taking the word of a shop girl over your legal counsel. Mara kept her hand on the ledger. Bookshop girl, she said. Celeste looked at her. Excuse me? If you are going to insult me, get the room right. The bodyguard nearest the door turned his head toward the rain. Nico did not smile. But something in his face recognized the difference between fear and dignity. Celeste's eyes narrowed. How brave, with 2 armed men beside you. They are not beside me. No. I suppose you imagine Mr. Veron is. Mara looked at Nico. He looked back, expression unreadable. I imagine nothing, Mara said. I read what is on the page. Then read, Nico said. She did. The green page contained 18 lines. Some were women. Some were children. Some were entire families hidden under book titles and condition notes. At first the pattern seemed impossible to explain aloud without losing the room, so Mara used the counter. She pulled a copy of Rosemary and Rue from the shelf behind her. 3rd edition. Water damage on page 42. Inside the warped paper, beneath a pasted repair, she found a folded onion skin slip in Mr. Ives's old protective wrapper. Nico watched as she unfolded it. A birth certificate. Not Mara Bell's. A child named Rose Bell, born under a different surname 2 months after Mara Bell was reported dead. Hale whispered something under his breath. Mara looked at him. You missed one. His face drained. Celeste stepped back. Nico took the certificate from Mara only after she nodded permission. That mattered. She did not know why she noticed it in the middle of a room cracking open, but she did. Men like Nico did not ask. They received. They seized. They made grammar rearrange itself around power. He waited for her permission before touching fragile paper. Rose Bell, he said. A protected child, Mara said. Hidden through the shop inventory. Why would my father do this? Because someone was hunting them. Who? Mara turned the ledger slightly. That is what the next pages are for. Hale said, this is fantasy. Old men write codes to make themselves feel useful. Mara lifted another green page from deeper in the ledger. Then why did Mr. Ives write your name beside 3 missing releases? Hale stopped. Nico's head turned. Where? Mara showed him the margin. Hale. Never alone with transfer keys. The words were faint but clear. Nico read them once. Then again. The shop became very quiet. Hale's voice lost polish. Your father distrusted everyone at the end. Not everyone, Mara said. The lawyer looked at her with open hatred now. There it was. The real face under the well-fitted suit. Mara did not enjoy being hated, but she trusted it more than contempt. Contempt said a person believed she did not matter. Hatred admitted she had become inconvenient. Nico closed the ledger with one careful hand. Mara's heart kicked. Wait. He stopped. She hated how quickly he did. Not hated. Feared. There were forms of attention a woman could crave only if she forgot their cost. Do not close it completely, she said. The binding is weak, and the green pages are tipped in. Pressure will tear the hinge. Nico opened the cover again by 1 inch. Better? Yes. What do you need? That question came too fast. Mara heard command beneath it, dressed as practicality. Time, she said. You have 1 hour. No. His eyes sharpened. No? You have 1 hour because powerful men think truth should rearrange itself around their schedule. I need at least 2 days to examine the ledger safely. Celeste laughed. 2 days. How precious. Mara looked at the windows. Rain ran down the glass in silver lines. Beyond it, a black SUV idled at the curb, throwing its own reflection back at the shop like a warning. The last person who rushed this ledger taught you to hate your father for 20 years, Mara said. You can spare 2 days. Nico stared at her. The bodyguard stared at the floor. Hale stared at the ledger as if wishing it would burst into flames on its own. Then Nico Veron placed the dead matchbook on the counter beside the brass book. Wait. 2 days, he said. Mara nodded. And the ledger stays here. No. Yes. His jaw tightened. Miss Quinn. Mr. Veron. That book is my father's property. It is also evidence, and it is physically unstable. Moving it without support could destroy what you need. My men can guard it. Your men can guard the door. The ledger stays on my restoration table. You are not in a position to dictate terms. Mara turned the green page with a bone folder, not her fingers. Neither was your father, apparently, yet he still left instructions. That hit. She saw it land behind his eyes. Not as insult. As grief. For 1 second, Nico did not look like a mafia boss. He looked like a man standing beside a coffin he had spent 20 years refusing to open. Then the armor returned. The ledger stays, he said. So do 2 guards. Outside the restoration room. Inside. Outside. He stepped closer. The shop seemed to shrink around him. Mara held her ground because the ledger was under her hands, because Mr. Ives had trusted her, and because every woman on those green pages had once needed someone to refuse a powerful man on her behalf. Inside, he repeated. Then I do not work. Celeste made a small delighted sound, certain Mara had lost. Nico looked at the ledger, then at Mara's hands. The hands won. Outside, he said. Chapter 2. Mara did not allow anyone into the basement restoration room until she had cleaned the table. This irritated powerful people. She did it anyway. Truth deserved a clean surface. The basement smelled of paste, linen, old wood, and rainwater seeping faintly through the east wall. It was not glamorous. The ceiling was low. The floor sloped toward a drain no one had used since the 1970s. Two presses stood against the wall like squat iron judges. A humidification chamber hummed beside a stack of blotter paper. The overhead lamp flickered if someone turned on the kettle upstairs. It was the safest room in the building for the ledger. Mara carried it down herself in a cradle of folded muslin, with Nico following 3 steps behind and both bodyguards stopping at the threshold as ordered. Hale had been moved to a chair in the front room under watch. Celeste remained upstairs, making phone calls Nico had forbidden until one bodyguard calmly took her phone and placed it in a biscuit tin. Mara had enjoyed that more than she should have. No food or drink, she said as Nico entered the restoration room. I am not carrying either. No leaning on the table. I know how to stand. Not in this room. He looked at her. She set the ledger on the foam supports. In this room, you stand where the book is safest, not where you look most intimidating. For a moment, he said nothing. Then he moved to the side she indicated. Good. Trainable, in small ways. Mara opened the ledger to the first green page again. I need photographs before any handling. Nico reached into his coat. She stiffened. He noticed immediately. His hand stopped. Phone, he said. Take it out slowly anyway. He did. The fact that he accepted the instruction without mockery told her more than his expensive coat did. She photographed the page under white light, then under angled light, then with a small UV lamp Mr. Ives had bought at an estate sale. Hidden ink appeared in the margins like ghosts deciding the living had waited long enough. Nico inhaled. Mara did not look up. What? I have seen that mark before. 3 dots. 1 line. Where? On the inside of my mother's prayer book. Mara kept the lamp steady. Is she alive? Yes. Ask her. My mother does not discuss my father. Maybe she was waiting for you to ask the right question. Nico's silence changed temperature. Mara glanced up. His face had closed, but not in anger at her. In self-defense. You speak freely, he said. No. I speak carefully. You are used to people confusing the two. That earned a stare. She returned to the page. The first green sheet gave them 6 protected identities, 4 old titles, 2 false inventory codes, and 1 repeated notation. Saffron binding. Do not release to Hale. Hale again. On the second green page, they found a list of women hidden after a dock fire that Mara remembered from childhood news. Officially, the fire had been gang retaliation. The ledger suggested something else, a cleansing of witnesses before a shipping vote. Nico became very still. My father opposed that vote. Did people know? Everyone knew. They called him sentimental. For saving witnesses? For refusing profit. Mara looked at the page. People say sentimental when mercy costs money. Nico looked at her then, really looked, as if she had opened more than a ledger. She returned to the paper. Attention was easier to bear when she had work between them. They worked through 3 pages before midnight. Mara translated book codes. Nico supplied family history. Together, they found a hidden system built across decades, books as doors, titles as safe houses, condition notes as warnings, page numbers as birth records, binding colors as threat levels. Nico's father had used the shop to move vulnerable people out of reach, widows of murdered associates, children whose names would have been used as leverage, women who had testified and then vanished from official protection. He never told me, Nico said. Mara lifted a fragile corner with the bone folder. Maybe he was keeping you safe. By making me hate him? No. Someone else did that part. He looked toward the ceiling, where Hale sat under guard. August came to me after the funeral. He showed me bank transfers, names, shipping records. He said my father had sold safe routes to enemies. Were the documents original? I was 22. Mara looked up. The answer was not no. It was worse. It was I was young, and someone chose the wound before I knew where to put my hands. You believed him because grief needed a shape, she said. You make excuses for me? No. I explain mechanisms. He almost smiled. Almost. The lamp flickered. Mara cursed softly. Nico looked at the ceiling. Is that normal? Unfortunately. This building is unsafe. This building is old. That is not an answer. It is the answer buildings prefer. I can have an electrician here in an hour. No. He blinked. No. You cannot send men into the walls while I have this ledger open. Tomorrow, then. Ask the landlord. I own the building. Mara's hand stopped. He saw it. You knew, he said. I knew the Veron family owned the title. I did not know you personally signed the lease increases. I didn't. Someone did in your name. Hale. Convenient. You think I am lying? I think powerful men often don't know which cruelties were done in their name because not knowing benefits them. The basement became very quiet. Nico did not lash out. That interested her. Men who had never been challenged usually mistook accuracy for disrespect. Nico had power enough to do that if he wanted. Instead, he looked around the basement, the bowed shelves, the damp wall, the patched cord on the lamp, the little fan fighting moisture near the floor. How long has the wall leaked? 8 months. How many repair requests? 7. To Hale? To the property office. Which Hale controls. Apparently. Nico looked back at the ledger. I wanted to burn this building because I thought it preserved my father's betrayal. It preserved his promises. And I starved it. Mara did not soften the truth. Yes. He accepted that too. This was becoming a problem. If he had been cruel, she could have hated him cleanly. If he had been charming, she could have distrusted him easily. But this listening, this controlled willingness to stand still under judgment, made him difficult to file. Mara liked categories. Old paper. New paper. Stable ink. Fugitive ink. Surface dirt. Embedded dirt. Books worth saving. Books too damaged to pretend. Nico Veron did not fit. At 1:16 a.m., he said, you need rest. I need to finish the 3rd green page. You are swaying. I am not. You braced your hand on the table twice in 10 minutes. You watch too much. Yes. The admission landed without apology. Mara looked at him. He did not try to make it flirtation. In my world, he said, watching keeps people alive. In mine, it makes women wonder what men plan to take. His eyes changed. Not dramatically. Just enough. Then I will say what I plan. That would be novel. I plan to keep 2 guards outside the shop, remove Hale from all records access, call my mother before morning, and return in 6 hours after you sleep. You plan a lot. Ida. And me? You plan yourself. Mara's throat tightened unexpectedly. She looked back at the ledger. Good answer. I am learning the room. Do not get proud. You are at primer level. This time he did smile. Only slightly. Enough that Mara looked away too late. Chapter 3. Nico's mother arrived at 7 in the morning with a black umbrella, 2 drivers, and the expression of a woman who had spent a lifetime allowing men to think silence meant ignorance. Her name was Antonia Veron. She was 70, narrow-shouldered, silver-haired, and dressed in mourning colors though her husband had been dead 20 years. Not black exactly. More like deep violet, gray, and blue so dark it remembered black without performing it. She carried a small leather prayer book in one hand. Nico met her in the front room of the shop. Mara watched from the stairs to the basement, holding a mug of coffee gone cold. The first thing Antonia did was look past her son to the shelves. Your father loved this room, she said. Nico's face tightened. You never told me. You never asked without hating him first. That was one way to begin breakfast. Mara almost retreated downstairs. Antonia's eyes found her. You are Miss Quinn. Yes, ma'am. You have paper dust on your cheek. Mara wiped the wrong side. Nico lifted his hand, then stopped himself. Mara noticed. Antonia noticed too. The old woman's eyes sharpened with interest. Other side, Nico said. Mara wiped the correct cheek. Thank you. May I see the ledger? Antonia asked. Mara came down the last steps. Before that, may I see your prayer book? Nico turned toward her. His mother did not. Antonia held out the book immediately. I wondered when someone would ask. Nico stared at her. Mama. Do not look wounded. You have been busy being wrong. Mara coughed into her coffee. Nico gave her a look. She hid behind the mug. Antonia's prayer book was small, soft from years of use, with a worn blue ribbon and a cracked spine. Inside the back cover, under a pasted holy card, Mara found the mark. 3 dots. 1 line. Under it, in the same hard-pressing hand as the green pages. If they call me traitor, ask Antonia for the green doors. Nico sat down. Not dramatically. Not collapsing. Simply as if his knees had decided the floor was too far and a chair was necessary. Antonia looked at the note. Her face did not break. It had broken long ago and healed into something quieter. I told him not to write in my prayer book, she said. Mama. He said God had seen worse handwriting. Mara smiled before she could stop herself. Antonia saw and approved. What are the green doors? Nico asked. His voice was rough. Antonia looked toward the front windows, where rain had finally stopped and the street shone pale under morning. Women, she said. Children. Men too, sometimes, if they knew how to listen. Your father built a way out for people whose names made them targets. Why didn't you tell me? Because August Hale brought you papers after the funeral. You believed them. Then you became a man who punished questions before they reached your ears. Mara looked down at the prayer book. Nico said nothing. Antonia's voice softened, but not much. You were grieving. That explains it. It does not excuse 20 years. Mara liked her. Deeply. The green pages are keyed to book locations, Mara said. I can decode some. But not all. Antonia nodded. I know some. Nico looked at her. You knew. I knew enough to stay quiet and stay alive. Hale wanted the network. Your father would not give it to him. After the funeral, Hale needed you angry enough to destroy what remained. And I almost did. Antonia's eyes moved to the burned matchbook on the counter. Yes. Mara expected Nico to defend himself. He did not. I am sorry, he said. The words were low, not performative, not sufficient, but real. Antonia touched his cheek. Then become useful. Mara definitely liked her. Celeste arrived 10 minutes later and liked no one. She entered without knocking, wearing cream wool and impatience, followed by a driver carrying a garment bag. Nico, this has gone too far. Nico stood. Antonia closed the prayer book. Mara set the ledger release form under a blotter because Celeste's eyes went directly to paper. Good morning, Miss Arden, Antonia said. Celeste's smile flickered. Mrs. Verone. You still have the engagement ring. Nico looked at Celeste's left hand. The ring was there. Mara had not noticed before. She should have. Rings told stories too. Celeste covered it with her right hand. This is hardly the moment. It is exactly the moment, Antonia said. You were pleased to marry my son while he burned his father's ledger. Are you equally pleased to marry him while he reads it? Celeste's mouth tightened. I have only ever wanted what is best for Nico. That is the sentence women use when they want a man's power but not his truth, Antonia said. Nico inhaled as if hiding a laugh would kill him. Mara looked very hard at the ledger. Celeste's eyes flashed. And you, she said to Mara, must be enjoying this. Yesterday you were a clerk. Today the Verones are gathered around your table. It's Mr. Ives's table. Of course. Humility. How tasteful. Mara leaned one hip against the counter. No, accuracy. Antonia smiled into her prayer book. Celeste turned to Nico. You are humiliating me. No, Nico said. You came here for that yourself. The room inhaled. Celeste's face went white. Mara felt no pity yet. Maybe later. Probably not. Nico's voice stayed level. You called me Luca yesterday. Celeste's composure cracked just enough. I was upset. You called me my brother's name. Mara looked at him. Brother. The report had not mentioned a brother. Antonia closed her eyes. Nico continued. Luca died before my father. Hale always said my father caused it by refusing a route transfer. Celeste swallowed. I don't know anything about that. Mara turned the prayer book over in her hands. There, pressed into the leather near the spine, was an indentation from a paper once stored inside. A narrow slip. Maybe a photograph. Maybe a death notice. Maybe a page. Mrs. Verone, Mara said quietly, did Luca have a book code? Antonia opened her eyes. Blue binding, she said. Saints and Sailors. Page 17. Nico's hands curled. Mara moved to the nautical shelf behind the counter. What are you doing? Celeste asked. My job. She found Saints and Sailors on the third shelf, blue cloth binding, cracked at the lower hinge. Page 17 had been repaired badly by someone who knew enough to hide paper but not enough to respect grain direction. Mara lifted the repair. Inside was a small photograph of two boys on a pier, one older, one younger, both trying not to smile. On the back. Luca knows Hale took the dock key. Nico took the photograph. The shot blurred for him. Mara saw it happen and looked away, because grief deserved privacy even when it arrived in public. Celeste did not look away. She looked trapped. Nico lifted his eyes to her. You knew Hale used Luca's name. No. You knew enough to fear saying it. Nico, please. That please told a bigger truth than denial. He removed the engagement ring from her finger. Not cruelly. Not tenderly. Finally. Leave, he said. Celeste looked at Antonia. No help there. At Hale, still guarded near the history section. No help there either. At Mara. Mara wondered what Celeste saw. A bookshop girl with paper dust on her cheek. A clerk. A woman who had not dressed for war and had entered it anyway. He will tire of your little talents, Celeste said. Mara smiled faintly. They aren't for him. Nico's head turned toward her. Celeste left. The front bell rang once behind her, bright and ordinary. The photograph of Luca and Nico lay on the counter beside the green ledger page. Nico touched the edge of it with one finger. I burned him twice, he said. Antonia's face softened. No. I let Hale give me a version of Luca that made my father guilty. You were young. I stayed wrong. Mara said nothing. This apology was not hers to receive. But Nico looked at her anyway. Not for rescue. For witness. That was heavier. Chapter 4. By afternoon, Veron Books had more guards outside than customers had entered in the previous month. Mara objected to 3 of them. They are blocking the poetry shelf, she said. Nico looked at the men in question. Move. Not like that, Mara said. The men froze. Nico turned slowly. Not like what? Like I asked where to put furniture. They are people. Tell them why. One bodyguard stared at the ceiling. Nico looked at Mara for a long moment. Then he turned back. Gentlemen, Miss Quinn needs the poetry shelf accessible because apparently truth hides near bad sonnets. Stand by the front cases instead. Mara pressed her lips together. The bodyguards moved. Antonia laughed softly from an armchair near biography. You are good for him. I am good at my work. Both may be true. Mara did not answer. She had moved the ledger back to the basement after photographing 6 more green pages. Nico had arranged for technical scans to be brought to the shop, not the ledger taken to his office. That was progress. He had also tried to buy the neighboring building before lunch. That was regression. It needs roof access, he said when she objected. It needs you to ask. I did ask. You asked your lawyer. I fired my lawyer. Your new lawyer, then. I suspended all lawyers. That seems inefficient. My patience is thin today. Mine too. Yet I have not bought a block. Antonia made another approving sound. Nico rubbed one hand over his jaw. What would you have me do? Mara pointed to the old corkboard by the front desk. Write a repair request like everyone else. To myself? To the property office. In writing. So the building has a record that does not depend on whether a powerful man felt briefly guilty. Nico looked offended. Briefly? We'll see. He walked to the corkboard. Mara handed him a pencil. He looked at it. A pencil? Ink smears on damp paper. Of course. He wrote the repair request in block capitals that looked like they had intimidated banks. Mara read it. Too vague. It says east wall leak. How long? Which room? What damage? Who reported it? What date? He stared at her. You are enjoying this. A little. Good. She looked up. He was not smiling, exactly. That made it worse. Why good? I owe this building discomfort. Mara glanced toward Antonia. The older woman was watching them with the quiet satisfaction of someone seeing a difficult recipe finally follow instructions. Do not make me part of your penance, Mara said. Nico's expression sobered. No. I mean it. I know. I am not here to make you feel forgiven. No, he said. You are here because you know how to read paper. The answer should not have warmed her. It did. At 4 o'clock, the first active threat arrived. Not with a dramatic knock. Not with men in black cars. With a courier envelope. The envelope was addressed to Mr. Ives, who had been dead for 3 months. Mara saw the handwriting and felt the room tilt. Mr. Ives had a rule about dead-name mail. Never open it upstairs. She picked up the envelope with tongs. Nico noticed immediately. What is it? Something meant for a dead man. Is it dangerous? Possibly. Then put it down. Ask. The word stopped him. His eyes flicked to Antonia, then back. Miss Quinn, would you put the envelope down until we know what it contains? No. That was not the answer I wanted. It was the answer you asked for. She carried the envelope to the basement with Nico following, tense enough to alter the air. On the restoration table, under protective glass, she opened it with a bone folder. Inside was one library checkout card. Green. Blank except for a typed line. The green doors close at midnight. Nico read it over her shoulder. Meaning? Mara flipped the card. On the back, in Mr. Ives's old code. Saffron binding. Page 9. If Hale wakes them, move the mothers first. Mara's mouth went dry. It means the network is still active. And someone knows we opened the ledger. Yes. Who? She looked toward the ceiling. Hale. But Hale had been watched. Unless the trigger had been set earlier. Unless the courier route itself was monitored. Unless someone in the network had been waiting for Veron Books to move from dying to dangerous. Nico's voice changed. Mothers. Widows, protected witnesses, women with children. Maybe code, maybe literal. Can you find the saffron binding? Yes. How long? If the title is in the ledger, 10 minutes. If it is hidden in the shop, hours. You have minutes. No. His jaw tightened. She raised one hand. Not defiance. Physics. This shop has 12,000 volumes. He closed his eyes once. What do you need? Antonia. He opened his eyes. My mother? She knows green doors. She may know saffron. She is upstairs. Then ask her to come down. The basement is damp. So is the truth. He looked at her. For one unwise second, they almost smiled at each other in a room where danger had just delivered itself by mail. Then he went upstairs. Antonia knew. Of course she did. Saffron binding is not a color, she said, descending the basement stairs with one hand on the rail and one bodyguard hovering uselessly behind her. It is a cookbook. A cookbook? Nico asked. Your father liked jokes that made men underestimate him. Mara moved to the culinary section in the basement overflow shelves. Saffron binding. Not yellow. Not orange. Saffron, faded cloth with a stain near the spine. The art of southern tables. Page 9 contained a recipe for sweet rolls and a repair patch Mara had noticed years ago but never lifted because the book had not been requested. Now she lifted it. Underneath was a list of current addresses. Not old names. Current ones. Some had children's ages. Some had medical notes. Some had warning marks beside them. Mara felt fury rise so clean it steadied her hands. This cannot stay here, Nico said. No. You said the ledger could not move. This is not the ledger. How many green doors? Mara counted. 14. Move them. Antonia's voice was sharp. Ask them. Nico turned. His mother's face was white with anger. We are not doing what men have always done, she said. We are not moving women like furniture because danger found their names. Nico looked at the list. Then at Mara. She did not rescue him. He had to learn this part himself. We warned them, he said. Antonia nodded once. And offer safe routes, Mara said. Yes. And let them choose. He looked at her. Yes. That yes mattered more than all the guards upstairs. Chapter 5. The first woman answered on the second ring. Her name in the ledger was Lark, though Antonia called her Mrs. Bellucci and Mara suspected neither was fully true. She lived above a bakery 3 neighborhoods away and had 2 sons who believed their grandfather died in a fishing accident instead of a dock execution. When Antonia told her the green doors had been opened, the woman did not panic. She said, I wondered when the old book would start breathing again. Mara wrote that down. Some sentences deserved preservation. By evening, the front room of Veron Books had become an emergency archive and choice center. Not command center. Mara insisted on that language until Nico repeated it correctly. Choice center, he said to one of his captains. The captain looked confused. Because we are offering choices, Nico said. Mara pretended not to hear the effort in his voice. Antonia called women from the list. Nico's people arranged safe cars only for those who requested them. Mara built a chart from book titles, page codes, and risk marks. 2 older women arrived in person and cried when they saw Antonia. One brought a tin of almond biscuits because trauma apparently did not erase manners. A young man came looking for proof his mother's real name had not been lost. Mara found it inside a gardening book. Every green page opened another life. And every life made Nico quieter. At 9, Hale tried to bargain. He had been held in the reading nook under guard all day, with water, a sandwich he refused, and enough dignity to make his downfall irritating. When Nico finally approached him, Hale sat with his legs crossed and his hair still smooth. You need me, Hale said. No. You have fragments. I know the structure. Nico said nothing. Mara stood behind the counter with a stack of index cards, listening because men like Hale performed more honestly when they thought working women were furniture. Your father built a sentimental mess, Hale continued. Women, children, widows, frightened clerks, dock wives who heard too much. He used family money to move them. He exposed routes. He weakened us. Us, Nico said. Hale smiled faintly. You know what I mean. I know what my father meant. Do you? A dead man looks noble when his mistakes mature in other people's imaginations. Mara moved one index card. Hale's eyes flicked to her. Just once. That was enough. She looked down at the card. M. Bell. Rosemary and Rue. 3rd. 42, Green Door. Rose Bell's birth certificate. Hale had reacted hardest to that first name. Not the prayer book. Not Luca's photograph. Not the current address list. Mara turned to Antonia. Who was Mara Bell? Hale's face changed. Nico saw it. Antonia's hand tightened around her pen. Your father's last witness, she said. Nico looked at his mother. Last witness to what? Luca's death. The shop seemed to draw breath through old shelves. Nico stepped back from Hale. Antonia's voice remained steady because older women often learn to bleed inward. Luca saw Hale take the dock key. Maribel saw Luca see it. Your father hid her because Hale could not kill a child of his own bloodline without questions. Nico went still. Hale said, Antonia. She looked at him with 20 years of quiet. No. Mara understood before Nico did. Maybe because she was looking at the birth certificate. Rose Bell. Born 2 months after Maribel was declared dead. Child of unknown father. Protected through green door. Maribel had not been just a witness. Rose is Hale's daughter, Mara said. Hale stood so fast the guard moved. Shut your mouth. The room snapped. Nico crossed the distance and stopped 1 foot from him. Speak to her like that again. Hale looked at Nico, then at Mara. The mask peeled back. You stupid little clerk. Mara felt the insult like cold water. Not because it hurt. Because it clarified. Bookshop girl, she said. Hale lunged toward the counter. Not far. Not successfully. The guard caught him. But the motion knocked a stack of books from the side table. One fell open at Mara's feet. Saints and Sailors. Blue binding. Page 17. The photograph of Luca and Nico slid halfway out from its protective folder. Nico bent and picked it up. Hale saw the photograph. That broke him more than the guards. He was a fool, Hale spat. Your brother had no discipline. He followed me. He should have stayed a boy. Nico did not move. Mara wished he would look away. He did not. Hale's voice rose. Your father chose witnesses over blood. I chose the family. Antonia stood. No, she said. You chose yourself and called it family because cowards need a banner. Hale laughed, ugly and thin. And you all hid behind books. Mara lifted the green ledger page. No, she said. They hid people behind books. You hid murder behind paperwork. For a second, Hale looked at her as if he would kill her if the room allowed it. The room did not. Nico's voice was almost gentle. Take him out. Hale fought then. Not enough to win. Enough to become exactly what his records had tried to hide. After the door closed behind him, the shop was silent except for rain beginning again. Antonia sat. Nico remained standing with the photograph in his hand. Mara wanted to say something useful. There was nothing. So she did the only thing her hands knew. She picked up the fallen books, checked their spines, and put them gently back where they belonged. Nico watched her. After a long time, he said, why does that help? Because someone has to put things back without pretending they are the same. He closed his eyes. Miss Quinn. Yes? I need a minute. Take one. No one lets me. Mara looked at the guards, the women, the records, the mother who had lost too much, the man who had spent 20 years becoming dangerous around a lie. Then she walked to the front door and turned the sign from closed to private appointment. They can learn, she said. Chapter 6. Nico took 7 minutes. Mara counted because she was a practical woman and because counting helped her not look at the way he stood in the travel aisle with his brother's photograph in both hands. 7 minutes was not enough time to grieve 20 years. It was enough time to begin without an audience. When he returned to the counter, his face was composed. Not healed. Mara distrusted healed faces after fresh damage. Composed was honest enough. What happens to the network? He asked. Antonia looked at Mara. Nico noticed. So did Mara. That was the problem with competence. Eventually people started handing you rooms you had not asked to own. It needs a legal structure, Mara said. Not Veron family discretion. Not Hale's office. Not hidden in one ledger under a dying roof. A foundation, Nico said. Maybe. With independent trustees, sealed records, consent protocols, and a preservation plan for the books. You have thought about this. Mr. Ives and I talked about what the shop could become if someone stopped trying to kill it. The words came out sharper than she intended. Nico accepted them. Then it will become that. No. His eyes lifted. Mara held up one finger. Do not do the thing. What thing? The Mafia boss waves his hand and fixes the woman's life, then expects gratitude to look like intimacy. One of the older women in the corner made a sound that was definitely approval. Nico looked at Mara for a long moment. That is not what I expect. Good. What do you want? Mara almost answered too quickly. Security. Repairs. Time. Sleep. A roof that did not leak. A salary that did not require freelance restoration at midnight. Control of the archive. A front sign that no longer felt like a lie. Maybe a chair that did not squeak. Maybe a life where she did not have to become sharp before breakfast to be taken seriously. Wanting was dangerous because powerful men often heard wants as shopping lists they could purchase and wrap in ownership. I want the ledger stabilized, she said. Nico waited. Smart man. I want every green door contacted by women, not armed men. He nodded. I want the building repaired through proper records, not favors. Another nod. I want Mr. Ives's name on the archive because he died guarding it. Done. And I want time to decide whether I want any part of the structure you are about to build. This answer surprised him. You may not? I may not. Why? Because I am tired, Mr. Verone. Because competence is not consent. Because I did not wake yesterday hoping to become the keeper of your father's mercy. Antonia looked down at her hands. Nico's face changed in the quietest way. You are right. I know. His mouth almost curved. You do. Yes. Will you at least advise on the preservation plan? At my rate. Name it. In writing. Of course. With boundaries. Clearly. And no guards inside my restoration room unless I request them. Agreed. That was too fast. I am learning. This time, Mara did smile. Small. Involuntary. Terrible for her sense of self-preservation. Nico saw it. He did not exploit it. That was worse. At midnight, the last protected woman left through the back with 2 others who had chosen temporary relocation. 6 had chosen to stay put with additional security. 3 requested time. 2 could not be reached. One was Rose Bell, now 39, a school librarian under another name, and Nico insisted on calling her himself until Antonia touched his arm. Not yet, she said. He looked at her. She deserves warning. She deserves not to have a Verone voice arrive in the dark telling her the father who erased her mother is finally exposed. Nico looked at Mara. Again, witness. Mara said, send a woman she knows if possible. Or a letter through the old code. Will you write it? I don't know her. You know the code. That is not the same as knowing her fear. He absorbed that. Then help my mother write it. Mara looked at Antonia. The older woman nodded. That, Mara said, I can do. The letter took 40 minutes. Antonia wrote the heart. Mara wrote the code. Nico wrote nothing, which might have been the most respectful thing he did all night. When the letter was sealed inside a copy of Rosemary and Rue, Antonia kissed the cover. Your father would have liked you, she told Mara. Mara did not know what to do with that. Mr. Ives did, she said. So did my husband, apparently. He trusted the future to whoever had good hands. Mara looked at the ledger. Good hands get tired. Nico spoke from the end of the counter. Then the future can wait until morning. Chapter 7. Morning made the bookshop look less dramatic and more damaged. That was useful. Drama made people promise too much. Damage made them measure. The east wall still leaked. The biography shelf still sagged. The front window still needed reglazing. The basement lamp still flickered when the kettle ran. Hale was in custody, Celeste had vanished into legal silence, and Nico Verone stood in the front room holding a clipboard while Mara explained building repairs by priority. Roof first, she said. Obviously. Not obviously. Rich men often start with paint because leaks are boring. Roof first, he repeated. Then east wall waterproofing. Yes. Then climate control for the archive. Already arranged. She looked at him. Through proper records? Through proper records. Show me. He handed her the clipboard. There were work orders. Dates. Contractor names. Insurance references. Approval lines. Her name appeared nowhere as beneficiary, owner, or dependent. Good. Very good. She hated how relieved she felt. Acceptable, she said. High praise. Do not get used to it. He looked less exhausted than he should have, which probably meant he had not slept. Neither had she. Antonia had been taken home at dawn under protest. The bodyguards had learned to stand away from the poetry shelf. 2 of the Green Door women had sent messages by courier. Rose Bell had not answered yet. Life, irritatingly, continued before people were ready. At 10, customers began trying the door. We are closed, Nico said. Mara looked at him. He corrected himself. Are you closed? No. Mara. Her name and his voice changed the air. He realized it as soon as she did. Miss Quinn, he said. She turned the sign. We are a bookshop. You were nearly attacked through a code yesterday. The books did not attack me. That is not the standard I use. Your standards need repair. Everything needs repair, according to you. Most things do. A woman with a wet umbrella entered looking for a mystery novel and froze at the sight of 2 bodyguards near the philosophy shelves. Mara sold her a used paperback for $3 and recommended the sequel. Nico watched as if retail were a ritual in an unfamiliar church. When the customer left, he said, You really mean to continue as if nothing happened? No. I mean to continue because something happened. Explain. Hale wanted this place dead. Celeste wanted it empty. Your grief wanted it burned. If I close the doors the first morning after the ledger speaks, they all get a vote. Nico looked at the door. The small brass bell above it quivered from the customer's exit. And your vote? Open. He nodded. Then open. That should not have mattered as much as it did. By noon, he had been pulled into 3 calls, 2 family briefings, and 1 argument with a captain who clearly disliked taking instructions filtered through a bookshop. Mara pretended not to listen and failed, because the front room was small and Nico's voice did things to corners. No, he said once, cold enough to frost glass. No one approaches the bellwoman without Antonia's approval and Miss Quinn's code letter. Miss Quinn. Not the clerk. Not the girl. Not the woman from the shop. Her name, with the title she used. Mara dropped a pencil. Nico picked it up and set it beside her hand without touching her. Thank you, she said. You're welcome. Dangerous. Small kindness from powerful men was more dangerous than grand rescue because it fit through the cracks where suspicion got tired. At 2, Antonia returned with lunch. You both look like badly folded laundry, she announced. Mara took the basket from her. Thank you, Mrs. Varone. Antonia, unless my son has frightened you into formality. Your son has mostly frightened my shelves. They will recover. Nico looked at his mother. You seem well. Because last night I learned my husband died less alone than I thought. That quieted the room. Antonia unpacked bread, olives, cheese, pears, and a tin of almond biscuits from Mrs. Bellucci. She put the food on the counter with the authority of a general. Eat, she said. Mara ate because refusing older women's food seemed more dangerous than any Varone. They stood around the counter, 3 tired people, 1 open ledger, 2 guards pretending not to smell the bread, and a bookshop full of dead men's better intentions. Nico took 1 pear slice. Antonia slapped his hand lightly. Bread first. Mama. Do not mama me. You have lived on coffee, regret, and intimidation for 20 years. It shows. Mara choked. Nico handed her a napkin without looking away from his mother. I am being attacked in my own building. You almost burned your own building. That is fair. Mara laughed. Not much. Enough. Nico looked at her. The laugh faded slowly, not because he killed it, but because he witnessed it too intently. Antonia looked between them and became very interested in olives. Mara set down her bread. I should return to the ledger. You should sleep, Nico said. Later. You said that last night. It remained true. Miss Quinn. Mr. Varone. Antonia sighed. This will be exhausting. Mara and Nico both looked at her. The archive, Antonia said innocently. Neither believed her. Chapter 8. Rose Bell answered at 3:47 p.m. Not by phone. She arrived in person, carrying the copy of Rosemary and Rue under one arm and a canvas tote bag full of library returns under the other. She was 39, round-faced, brown-haired, and wearing the wary calm of a woman who had learned to enter rooms by mapping exits first. Her eyes went to Antonia, then to Nico, then to Mara, then to the ledger on the counter under protective glass. Which one of you wrote the code line? She asked. Mara raised her hand. Rose nodded. It was good. Thank you. Too formal on the 3rd phrase. I didn't know you. Fair. Nico said nothing. Rose looked at him. You are Nico Varone? Yes. I was told to avoid Varone men. He accepted that without visible flinch. That was good advice. Mara looked at him. Rose did too. That answer had cost him. Good. Rose placed Rosemary and Rue on the counter. My mother died last year. Antonia closed her eyes. Nico's hand tightened at his side. Mara felt the room prepare to drown in apology. Rose stopped it. She died old enough to complain about hospital soup and young enough to flirt with the pharmacist. She was not murdered. I want that clear. Antonia smiled through grief. Good for her. She told me if the green door ever opened, I should bring the book back and ask for the page under the marigold. Mara pulled the ledger. Marigold? Rose nodded. Not a book. A flower pressed inside one. Mara thought through Mr. Ives's shelving habits. Flowers. Gardening. Victorian language. Pressed specimens. Basement, she said. Nico moved with her. Rose followed. At the basement door, Mara stopped. You don't have to come down, she told Rose. Do you? Yes. Then I do. That was the end of that. They found the marigold inside a Victorian flower dictionary, brittle and gold brown, pressed at the letter G. Grief. Under it was a folded letter from Luca Varone. Nico could not open it. Rose did. Her mother had been right. The letter was not for Nico. Not entirely. Luca wrote to Mara Bell, apologizing for leading danger to her door. He wrote that Hale had stolen the dock key, that Nico was too young to trust with the truth because grief would make him reckless, and that his father was building green doors in case the family failed its own conscience. At the bottom, in a younger, less controlled hand. If my brother becomes the kind of man Hale wants, tell him he was loved before he was feared. Nico turned away. Rose folded the letter carefully. My mother never hated you, she said. He looked back. Rose's voice remained steady. She hated that you were lied to. There is a difference. Nico looked like a man trying to stand still under mercy. Mara understood then why the ledger mattered beyond proof. Proof could clear a name. Mercy could return a man to himself. That was more dangerous. Later, after Rose left with Antonia to discuss safe contact with other green doors, Nico stayed in the basement with Mara. The lamp flickered. Neither moved. I don't know what to do with him, Nico said. Hale? My brother. Mara placed the flower dictionary on a cradle. You don't do anything with him. What does that mean? He is not a debt to pay or a wound to solve. He is your brother. Read the letter. Keep the photograph. Ask your mother about him. Let him be more than the way he died. Nico leaned one hand on the edge of the old work table, careful not to touch the books. You make impossible things sound like instructions. No. I make instructions because impossible is too big to hold. He looked at her. Do you do that for yourself? Mara laughed once. Poorly. What is impossible for you? The question entered too softly. That made it harder to refuse. She could have said money, sleep, the roof, Mr. Ives dying, the way old customers called her dear while ignoring her estimates. She could have said the fear of being seen by a man who could change her life too quickly, whether he meant to or not. Instead, she told the truth adjacent to the truth. Letting good things arrive without checking the glue. Nico's face changed. What do you check for? Whether it will hold. Who applied it? Whether it was used to hide damage instead of repair it. And me? Mara looked at his hands. No match now. No ledger seized. No command pressing her shoulders down. Still dangerous. Still capable of making the entire building rearrange around his grief. Still drying, she said. His mouth curved, barely. Fair. You should not look pleased. I am trying not to. Try harder. No. The no was quiet enough to feel like a hand offered palm up. Mara turned away first. Because she wanted to step closer. Because wanting was not an emergency. And because she had a ledger to save. Chapter 9. The structure took shape over 3 days. Not the building structure. That took longer and involved roofers, engineers, permits, and Nico learning that proper records were slower than orders but better at surviving betrayal. The other structure. The green doors. They named it the Ives Archive because Mara refused every version involving the Veron name. Nico argued once. Antonia raised one eyebrow. Nico stopped arguing. The archive would preserve the ledger, contact protected families through chosen channels, maintain legal safeguards, and fund relocation only with consent. Its trustees would include Antonia, Rose Bell, a retired judge Mrs. Bellucci trusted, and, if she accepted, Mara Quinn. Mara did not accept immediately. Nico did not push. That became its own kind of pressure. Men who pushed were easy to resist. Men who waited made a woman sit alone with what she actually wanted. She hated that. On the 4th evening, Mara found him in the front room, reading a repair request form she had corrected in red pencil. You're still here, she said. This form says my description of the West Gutter is emotionally vague. It is. A gutter can be emotionally vague? When a man writes fix exterior issue because he doesn't know where water goes, yes. Nico looked at the paper. I am beginning to fear your pencil. Good. He set the form down. The shop was quiet. The guards waited outside now, where they belonged. Antonia had gone home. Rose had returned to her library. The ledger rested in the basement under stable humidity for the first time in years. Rain had stopped, leaving the windows dark and reflective. Mara began closing the register. You should go home. I have one more thing to ask. She stilled. About the archive? No. She looked up. Nico stood on the other side of the counter, not touching it, not leaning into her space. May I take you to dinner? There it was. No bargain. No reward. No burning building behind it. No mother in danger. No ledger open between them. Just the question. Mara felt something inside her reach for yes and something older reach for the repair manual. Why? He considered the question seriously. Because I want to sit across from you in a room where nothing is in immediate danger and learn what you read when you are not reading evidence. That was much too good an answer. Mara resented him for it. That sounds rehearsed. It was. She blinked. He continued, the first version was worse. What was it? I would like to take you somewhere no one has ever disrespected you. Her throat tightened. That is definitely worse. I know. Why? Because it assumes I can provide such a place by choosing the restaurant. And, You would have pointed out that disrespect follows women into expensive rooms unless someone changes the rules. Mara folded her arms. You are getting harder to correct. I am sorry. No, you're not. No, he admitted. Not about that. She looked at the green ledger page visible beneath protective glass in the display case behind him. Not the original. A facsimile. The real page stayed in the basement. But the copy showed the 3 dots and 1 line, the book codes, the proof that mercy could survive inside a system built by dangerous men. Dinner, she said, is not gratitude. No. It is not payment. No. It does not make me your archive keeper. No. Or your conscience. Definitely not. You would overcharge. She laughed before she could stop herself. Nico's face changed with the sound. He did not step closer. That, finally, decided her. One dinner. Yes. Somewhere with good lighting. Of course. No private room where your men stand outside the door like undertakers. Public dining room. No buying the restaurant. I was not planning to. She gave him a look. I was considering it, he admitted. No. No buying the restaurant. No ordering for me. Never. And if anyone is rude to the staff, we leave. Agreed. Mara picked up her keys. Then yes. Nico breathed out slowly. Thank you. Do not thank me like I donated a kidney. I agreed to pasta. Still. The front bell rang though no one entered, stirred by a draft from the old door. Mara looked at it. That bell needs tightening. Should I file a repair request? Now you're learning. The dinner was not magical. It was better. They went to a small Italian place Antonia recommended and did not own, where the owner greeted Nico with fear until Nico said, "We are here to eat, not conduct business," and Mara added, "and to tip properly." The owner relaxed by 3 degrees. The food was good. The lighting was warm. Nico did not order for her. He did frighten a waiter by knowing too much about olive oil distribution, but he apologized after Mara looked at him. They talked about books. Not ledger books. Actual books. Mara learned he hated poetry because his tutors made him memorize dead men who all sounded thirsty and angry. Nico learned she loved adventure novels with maps because maps promised exits even when stories became frightening. He told her Luca had loved sea stories. She told him Mr. Ives had shelved romances by emotional weather, not alphabetically, when he got bored. Emotional weather? Nico asked. Storm forgiveness, quiet longing, revenge weddings, second chances with excellent coats. And what shelf am I? Mara looked at him over her glass. Under review. His smile arrived slowly. Fair. After dinner, he walked her back to the shop because she refused his car and accepted his company. At the door, under the old brass sign, he stopped at a respectful distance. May I ask for another dinner? You may ask. Will you have another dinner with me? Mara unlocked the door. Yes. When? After you fix the west gutter. He stared at her. That is extortion. No. Emotional infrastructure. He laughed. It was low, surprised, and real. Mara went inside before she did something foolish, like kiss a man whose gutter description was still unacceptable. Chapter 10. The west gutter was fixed in 2 days. Mara did not know whether to be impressed or alarmed. Both, she decided. The second dinner happened after the roofers left. The third after Rose Bell agreed to become a trustee. The fourth after the Ives archive filed its first official documents. By the fifth, Mara stopped pretending dinner was only a convenient extension of archive work. Nico never asked to come upstairs to her apartment. He walked her to the shop. He waited until the light went on above the stairs. He left. The first time, she thought it was performance. The second time, restraint. The third, pattern. By the fourth, she began to trust the seam. Trust did not arrive as thunder. It arrived as repeated stitches that did not pull under pressure. 2 months after the ledger almost burned, Veron Books reopened fully. Not as it had been. Better. The front room had new lights that made old spines glow without fading them. The east wall no longer leaked. The basement had climate control. The upper gallery displayed rare books beside short notes about the people who had preserved them, not just the people who had owned them. The Ives archive occupied the back room with frosted glass, consent forms, secure cabinets, and a staff of 3 women who had all once been told they were too stubborn for clerical work. Mara became director of restoration and archive access. On paper. With salary. With authority. With the right to tell Nico Veron no in writing whenever necessary. She accepted after rewriting the offer letter 11 times. Nico signed all 11 versions. The reopening party was supposed to be small. Antonia lit. By 7, the bookshop held trustees, green door families, restoration donors, old customers, new customers, several nervous Veron men in dark suits, and Mrs. Bellucci carrying enough pastries to feed a minor army. The front window shone. The old brass bell rang constantly. Mr. Ives's portrait stood near the register beside a small card. He kept the doors green. Mara cried once in the basement before anyone arrived and threatened the first person who noticed. Nico noticed. He said nothing. Correct answer. At 8, Antonia gave a short speech that made 3 men cry and pretended not to. Rose Bell spoke next, steady and bright, holding the restored copy of Rosemary and Rue. She did not tell the whole story. She told enough. Then someone called for Nico. He looked at Mara. She did not rescue him. He went to the front. The room quieted because rooms still did that for him. This time, Mara noticed, he did not use it like a weapon. I came here to burn a book, he said. Everyone looked at the display case where the first green ledger page rested under protective glass, with the brass book weight beside it. I thought burning it would defend my father from disgrace. I thought destroying the shop would end a lie. I was wrong. Antonia's eyes shone. Mara stood near the biography shelf, hands folded, heart behaving badly. Nico continued, a woman I mistook for a clerk stopped me with one hand and one page. Mara narrowed her eyes slightly. He saw it. A bookshop girl, he corrected. Soft laughter moved through the room. She read what I had been taught to hate. She protected the ledger from me before she protected it with me. This place exists tonight because my father had courage, Mr. Ives had loyalty, my mother had endurance, and Mara Quinn had the hands to read what the rest of us missed. The room turned toward her. Mara wanted to sink through the floor. Nico did not make the attention sentimental. He made it factual. The Ives archive belongs to its trustees and to the people whose names it protects. The Veron family funds it because we owe it. Not because we own it. That line mattered. Mara felt it ripple through the green door families. He stepped back. No grand gesture. No public claim. No ring, no declaration, no ownership disguised as romance. Only truth, placed where everyone could see it. After the applause, Mara found him in the basement. Hiding, she asked. Recovering. From applause? From honesty in public. Terrible condition. Chronic, perhaps. She stood beside him at the restoration table. The ledger lay closed on its cradle, stabilized but not fully repaired. Some books needed to remain visibly damaged. It kept people honest. That was a good speech, she said. High praise. Do not get used to it. He turned toward her. May I say something badly timed? That depends how badly. I love you. The basement became very quiet. Above them, people laughed, glasses clinked, the old bell rang, life moved through the shop they had refused to burn. Mara looked at the man who had come with a match and stayed long enough to learn repair requests, consent protocols, poetry shelf placement, and the difference between protection and possession. That was not badly timed, she said. His breath changed. No. No. Good. Do not look relieved yet. He became very still. Mara stepped closer first. That mattered. I love you too, she said. Nico closed his eyes for 1 second. Not in victory. In gratitude he knew better than to turn into ownership. When he opened them, he asked, May I kiss you? Mara smiled. You are getting better. I study. Yes. May I? Yes. The kiss was gentle at first because both of them knew how many ghosts stood nearby. Then it deepened, not into hunger that erased thought, but into warmth that made thought unnecessary for a few blessed seconds. Upstairs, Antonia called, If you are kissing in the basement, do not knock over the ledger. Mara broke the kiss against Nico's mouth and closed her eyes. Your mother is impossible. Yes. I love her. So do I. Mara laughed. Nico kissed her again, briefly, because laughter deserved punctuation too. Chapter 11. 1 year later, Veron Books no longer looked like it was dying politely. It looked busy. That was Messier and better. The front window displayed restored books on green stands. The old brass bell had been tightened but still kept its imperfect ring because Mara insisted perfection was suspicious. The poetry shelf had been moved away from bodyguard traffic permanently. The basement no longer smelled of damp wall. The Ives archive had helped 37 people correct records, relocate by choice, reclaim names, or simply learn the truth without being moved around by men who thought safety meant obedience. Nico still came to the shop. Not every day. Enough. He had an office elsewhere and a life full of things Mara did not ask to supervise. She had her own work, her own keys, her own decisions, and a desk with a green-shaded lamp Antonia called ugly enough to be honest. On the anniversary of the day he almost burned the ledger, Nico arrived before opening with a wrapped package. Mara looked at it. If that is jewelry, I am putting you in the gutter file. It is not jewelry. If it is a deed, worse. It is not a deed. If it is a restaurant reservation printed on handmade paper, I will mock you. Reasonable. He set the package on the counter. She opened it carefully. Inside was the matchbook. The same one he had held that first day. Empty now. Preserved in a small archival box, with the burned match fixed beside it and a label written in Nico's hand. The day I almost destroyed the truth. Mara stared at it. Her throat tightened. This belongs in the archive, he said. If the director agrees. The director needs a minute. Take 2. She laughed softly, then touched the edge of the archival box. You kept it. You kept stopping me from becoming the man who burned it. I stopped you once. No. He looked toward the green ledger page in its case. You stopped me every time I tried to turn fear into control. Mara looked at him. After a year, he was still dangerous. Still a mafia boss. Still capable of making men go silent with a glance and moving systems most people never saw. He had not become simple. She did not want simple. He had become careful where care mattered. That was better. Good, she said. High praise. Appropriate praise. He smiled. The front bell rang. Antonia entered with Rose Bell and Mrs. Bellucci behind her, all carrying food because apparently the archive could not commemorate anything without pastry. Are we early? Antonia asked. Always, Mara said. Good. I dislike arriving after men start speeches. Nico looked wounded. I had no speech. You had a face that might become one. Rose laughed. Mrs. Bellucci placed a tin on the counter. Where do you want these? Away from the ledger, Mara and Nico said together. Everyone looked at them. Mara pretended to inspect the matchbook. Nico pretended nothing at all. Later, when the small gathering moved upstairs to view a new exhibit about hidden books and rescued names, Mara stayed behind in the front room for one moment. The shop was quiet around her. Not dead quiet. Resting quiet. She placed the matchbook in the display case beside the green ledger page and the brass book weight. 3 objects. A page. A weight. A match that had failed to become fire. Nico stood beside her. Does it look right? He asked. Mara adjusted the label by 1 millimeter. Now it does. Of course. She smiled. Do you ever regret not burning it? He looked at the green page. Every day I am grateful I did not. That is not what I asked. No, he said. I don't regret it. Even with everything that followed? He turned toward her. Especially with everything that followed. Mara took his hand in the quiet bookshop, under the sign Mr. Ives had painted badly and everyone had refused to replace. Outside, rain began again, soft against the front windows. Inside, the ledger waited under glass. Not hidden. Not worshipped. Protected. The green page lay open beneath the brass book weight, proof that mercy could survive inside paper long after powerful men forgot how to read it. Nico touched the edge of the display case. Everyone told me to burn it, he said. Mara leaned against his shoulder. I remember. You stopped me. The page stopped you. I only read it. No, he said, looking down at her with the kind of attention she had once feared and now trusted because it had learned restraint. You put your hand on the truth when I still had the match. Mara looked at the green page. The 3 dots and 1 line waited in the margin. Danger. Promise. Door. All of them, depending on who knew how to read. She turned the old brass sign on the front door from closed to open. The bell rang. This time, the sound did not feel like warning. It felt like welcome. And behind her, inside the bookshop that had refused to die politely, the mafia boss who had come to burn his father's ledger stood beside the bookshop girl who had read 1 green page and taught him where mercy had been hiding all along.